If you like this podcast or the previous ones, please consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Frankie'sPod. It just goes to help fund the software and the hosting. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Tonight I'm talking to Gareth Thomas, MBE. He never said MBE, I did, because we have to get that in there. And we'll find out why later as well, hopefully. Hi, Gareth, how are you doing?
I'm fine, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. And again, like I said earlier, thanks for coming on and doing this. Without people like yourself, I'd just be sat talking to myself and probably get locked up. It's just the normal 5 questions that I normally ask everyone. So, where did you grow up? Why did you join? What was it like? Why did you leave? And what have you done since? And I know that you've had a varied career, and it might surprise some people at the beginning and the end. It's like, yeah, really? Okay, well, I'll let you explain that one. So if you just want to give us a start off with where you grew up and why did you join the military?
Okay, so my dad was in the Royal Air Force. He was a Russian and Spanish linguist, so I was a PADS brat. So I brought up in various RAF camps around Lincolnshire, a couple of years in Berlin. My mother was from Warrington, so as my dad was leaving the RAF, I lived in Warrington for a while. And then about 10 or 11, we moved back to Swansea in South Wales. So, yeah, Welsh lad. Not much of an accent because I was a PADS brat, but Swansea's
You've
own.
definitely got a twang.
That's fine. Yeah. Swansea's own.
Yeah, I mean, so just before you move on to like the next bit or why you joined all that, I just want to go back to like growing up in the bases. I mean, I've got no experience in the area whatsoever. But what I'd like to know about Berlin, do you remember much of Berlin? What was it like there?
I do. I got quite a good memory of it. I was 5, 6, 7 years old, something like that. I remember the Marie Quarter. I remember it was an old airfield, RAF Gatehouse. It was one of the main sort of transit, during World War II. So it was an old Luftwaffe station, and just outside of the Marie Quarter, over the road, was a big river called the Havel. And it wasn't far from Wannsee House, where the final solution and all of that was done. So I vividly remember that. I think my overriding memory was there was like a bar, a German style bar food place over the road, and we went there. My grandparents came over, and we went there, and it's a big row of older Germans all drinking loads and loads of beer. And I just remember the massive steins as a kid. And I can't remember why, but we left Grandad there. Now, my granddad was in World War II. He was a submariner and he was on motor torpedo boats.
Wow.
And I thought, well, why have we left Grandad there? And it turns out, I just remember it, we saw Grandad the following day. He was a bit grumpy. I never really seen him drunk. And that was like the Waffen-SS reunion. It was like the British Legion. Is their equivalent, and somehow he was there talking, and he spent 4 or 5 hours and rolled back blazing drunk.
I don't imagine that. I mean, yeah, wow.
He was a massive veteran sort of. They've got it, and they're very proud and stuff, and they welcomed him.
Yeah.
I spoke. My granddad's passed away now, but I remember speaking to him about it years ago, and he said they welcomed him with open arms, and he was there for ages. So yeah, I remember it was always something. It's a cool story, and I remember bits and bobs of Berlin, the actual city itself. But obviously, when I was there, the wall was still up. So, and I remember getting on a train as well from West Germany through East Germany and through the wall or whatever it was into West Berlin. But that's about it, really. I just remember seeing my dad in uniform and stuff as well.
So your family left the military and you moved to Swansea. I mean, do you remember much?
Yeah.
And was it a big change? Did you find it easy? Did it affect you?
Not really. I always remember I had 16 schools growing up, which is probably why I had such a successful education. But I just remember having 16 schools, and I remember we had a first house in Warrington, and it was a big deal to have our own house instead of married quarters.
Yeah.
It wasn't coal. It wasn't a coal fire, things like that. And then we shifted. We went to Swansea then shortly afterwards, and we had a big 3-story, old fat Victorian style terraced house, but a big 3-story thing. And I remember being so excited near the beach and stuff, and right next to the rugby ground in Swansea. So yeah, there wasn't much of a transition for me going for being a military kid, a pants brat, to being a full-on civvy. Unfortunately, quite soon afterwards, my parents got divorced anyway, so and I stayed with my dad in Swansea.
So what led you to join the military then?
I'm quite proud of it, actually. Sort of every generation of my family has been involved with the military. Past a great-great-granddad was in the Boer War and things like that. So I was always a military kid. I never really settled down at school because I had so many different schools, North Luffenham, Digby, Gattow, wherever I was living, is like Warrington, back down to Swansea. I joined the cadets straight away because I had a bit of an English accent, and going into Swansea school was a little bit rough, not tough, but it's a little bit rough. And I joined cadets because I was interested in it. So I joined the Sea Cadets, and I flew up the rank in the Sea Cadets up to leading seaman. And I just really enjoyed it. And whenever a warship would come into Swansea, we'd always march down there and get a tour round and be sort of part of that experience with the Royal Navy at the time. So yeah, it was definitely the cadets. I did traitor once or twice. I went to Air Cadets for 6 months. I didn't like that. I didn't like the uniform. Having lessons on an ejector seat, and you think, well, why are we going? I'm a cadet. Why aren't we talking about an ejector seat? Where the Sea Cadets, I was out sailing and canoeing and going on warships. I went to the Army Cadets, but that was logistically a nightmare because it was the other end of town and it was a rough part of Swansea. So getting there was a nightmare, and it was the chances of getting a kick in on the way. So I went back to Sea Cadets.
I mean, that's a fair enough reason, I must admit.
Yeah.
So there was no other way or the unit you were going to join. You were going to go in the Navy.
I toyed with the Army when I was in the Army Cadets. I remember them, I knew about the infantry, and it was a big thing, Royal Regiment of Wales, and there was the Welsh Guards, and it wasn't too long after the Falklands War. 4 or 5 years after the Falklands War, so the Welsh Guards were well known. Obviously, the Royal Regiment of Wales. One of our cadets went and joined the Royal Regiment of Wales as an officer. So I toyed with the Army, but at the time, HMS Birmingham came into Swansea, and I went on that, and I thought, and that was the newest ship because we always had the old Leander class and the old frigates came in. So we went on this thing that was like Star Wars, and I thought, I'm up for that. So yeah, I'll go and join the Navy. So I went to the careers office. I wasn't even 15 and a half when I applied. Decision made.
Yeah, I mean, when you look back, I mean, I come from a port town as well, from Hartlepool originally, and you used to get a lot of the Navy ships coming in, and every time they come in, everyone was allowed on, and I suppose it's a fantastic recruiting, exercise. I don't kind of hear that much of that happening now, really. I mean, probably not that target audience type of thing, but even when you see them coming, do they still visit towns, or I don't know?
I think they do. They do a little bit, but the security arrangements, and obviously when did I joined the Navy? 88? So you imagine the mid-80s, there were still 50, 60 ships.
Yeah.
And it was part of a recruiting process. I know the Army does it as well, their own individual recruiting sort of strategy, if you like. But I don't think there's just the ships now. And obviously the way the world is at the moment, and Britain is at the moment, is always that potential for a bit of argy-bargy and all of those servicemen getting them off the ship. They're an easy target, aren't they?
Yeah,
possibly.
I don't know. I mean, it's a very different military now to what when we joined.
Oh God, yeah.
I joined 85. Very, very different. Very different. Right. Sorry to interrupt there. Right, carry on.
That's right. What was it? So I joined the Navy in 1988. Well, I left school. I was the first year to sit GCSEs at school, but I didn't sit GCSEs, and I got a special dispensation. You couldn't get away with it now. So I was in school on the Friday in the March, and I literally just turned 16, and I joined the Navy on the Monday. I was probably the youngest. Well, I was the youngest person in the Royal Navy for however many weeks. I joined no GCSEs, nothing at all. And I arrived in HMS Raleigh. Pelu 22 was my class, my intake, if you like. And the journey began. So, I did 6 years in the Royal Navy, split between, for some reason, I was terrible at maths. I was rubbish at maths. And I went to electronic warfare. So I was an operations branch. They've changed the rank system now in the careers. They're all called operator maintainers. But I was a seaman. So I was a junior seaman, electronic warfare, which is probably the most, in that branch, operations branch, the one requiring the most intelligence, especially in maths, because you're doing radar theory and identifying ships, aircraft, submarines, everything by their electronic signature. And I still don't know really. I'm like that doing my 6 times table. But somehow I got through the course as an EW operator.
Good instructors then.
Good instructors. And I got into also the side of it was the intelligence side of it. So a Sovereign class frigate or Sovereign class destroyers got this weapon system. So you would associate this radar with this weapon, this missile, that range. And I knew that really, really well. It was just the radar theory and phase modulation and pulse duration, all the technical stuff requiring numbers and arithmetic were beyond me. But I made up for it on the intelligence side and listen. You could listen to
well over mine.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, it was
point, boom. Hey, that's me.
Oh, it gets worse because I did 2 years on a destroyer, HMS Nottingham, which is infamous because that's the one that ran aground after I left it. Ran aground off Wolf Rock in Australia.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It nearly sank, but the crew on board saved the ship. The skipper got hung out to dry. He wasn't even on it, but obviously, he was a good skipper. But he got in trouble for it. So, but I'd left. I was on Nottingham. I did an Armilla patrol when it was the Iran-Iraq war. So we would be escorting ships through the Straits of Hormuz. So I remember going to Dubai as a young 16-year-old, 17-year-old when Dubai was rather small, and getting all the duty-free, all the free, cassette tapes, all the copy tapes, and buying all the bits and bobs there. And the only social life was the Brick Club, and I bought an Argentinian football jersey because they were knockoff football jerseys, and I promptly got punched at the Brick Club for wearing it because the guy who punched me was on Glamorgan that got hit in the Falklands. So that was a lesson for me. So I did that as a young lad, finished that deployment then. It was called Armilla Patrol back then. And then I volunteered for submarines because my grandfather was a submariner. He had a tough war.
I was about to say why, but yeah, obviously.
My ship, Nottingham, had just gone into refit, so I'd have been stuck down Portsmouth for 9 months, not doing anything really. And I thought, fancied submarines. And volunteered for submarines, and I went to HMS Dolphin in Gosport as an able seaman, but I was also boxing at the time. So I was sort of bordering on the Navy boxing team. So I arrived at HMS Dolphin, boxing over HMS Alton over in Portsmouth, and I'll be back in 2. And did my submarine sort of trade training and the escape tank. So I rebranched from electronic warfare to a trade called tactical systems. So if you imagine a war film and you got the skipper on a periscope, well, I'm around the other side of the periscope looking at about this, the stadiometric rangefinder and all of that, and doing ironically, the mathematics required to figure out how far away another ship is. So I'm oversimplifying it there, but listen, you can't get a range on a submarine. You don't know how far something is because of noise. You can assess it, but the sea conditions, the weather conditions, how noisy the ship is and things like that. So you wait for movement of your movement or the ship's movement to come up with various calculations to figure out how far away it is and what direction it's going and stuff like that. So
And
for some reason, I ended up doing that.
So the escape tank, I mean, I've heard stories about that.
Yeah.
I mean, the way we got told about it was you basically get stood in the bottom of a tank, they fill it full of water, and you fly up it. Is that real or?
Yeah, basically, I think the one at Dolphin is now shut down at Gosport. It was 100 foot, so 30 meters, I think.
Right.
I'm just going back now. So you do 2 ascents from 9 meters. So you walk up some stairs and you go into like an air lock sort of thing. Then with no suit on, you're just in your swimming trunks and you get pushed out. You get held by an instructor, then empty your lungs, which doesn't seem natural because you feel like you should save your breath. But the whole point is, if you go and blow out, you can only expel about 70% of the air in your lungs. You're still 30%. And because you're so deep, that 30, as you ascend, that 30% expands. So if you held your breath, in theory, your lungs would explode. So you do two at that. I think it was 9 meters. You do one at 18 meters, which is a bit more serious. But you're not in a suit. You got a belt on and you get clipped. I think you get clipped onto a jackstay, the metal line. And then you do the big one at the bottom where you put the submarine survival suit on with the big hood over your thing. And there's an air pipe that goes down your arm and you plug that into this charging unit and it's a simulated submarine, escape tower like on a submarine.
Right.
You plug it in and it fills your suit up with air. And, so they fill the airlock, and it's like the films, and just as it's about there, the pressure equalizes and the hatch at the bottom of the tank opens, and you pop up, you get grabbed by an instructor who clips your belt onto this jackstay, the wire that goes straight through the middle, and up you go. And you pop out probably out to your knees in this suit. So that's 30 meters, 100 foot. It's quite... The instructors are superb, and those instructors that do that are also the submarine rescue people. So if a submarine ever gets sunk, they fly in a hurt, jump out the back, and do whatever they're going to do. Submarine parachute assistance group or something like that. They're still there. But you get to the top, then you get taken out your suit, and you get put on this line. You're not allowed to. You're freezing cold, and there's this line at the top of the tower. And you've got to stand there for 15 minutes just to check there's no bends or nothing wrong.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, it is quite a depth, and you can get the bends a lot shallower than that, for want of a better explanation.
Yeah.
So I mean, Jesus. I suppose when you're saying about breathing out as well, that's going to alleviate some of that. But I mean, if you've got less oxygen in your blood, less of it's going to turn to there's nitrogen in it. It tends to.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that alleviates that a little bit.
Yeah, it's really, but I think that I'm trying to remember. I think the record from a British submarine was 600 foot escape at sea, and they do that. Obviously, it's too dangerous now to be doing that sort of thing. But I think that was when I was still serving. We had the old diesel submarines, the O-boats, and they were, I think the record was about 600 foot. But it's either die in a submarine or risk it going out the hatch to the escape tower.
I think I know what I'd rather do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not get on one for a start. I mean, I can't imagine anything more scary than being stuck underwater. I suppose when you're in a sub and you've been trained and you don't experience the fact that you're underwater. Is it like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like being in a plane. You're up in the sky, but you don't feel as though you're flying.
Do you know what? I get asked this quite a lot because I used to wear my Submariner's dolphins on my army uniform, my 2s and 1s and mess dress and stuff like that. And there's only, I think, 2 of us that had officially Submariners. So you get asked it, and the only way I can give you an equivalent is if you imagine living and working on a triple-decker bus with the windows blacked out. So you live on the bottom deck and shower on the bottom deck. You do some administration, you eat, and you watch television on the middle deck, and you go to the top deck for work. That's the nearest thing I can explain it. But you can't see anything. And I spent my time on Polaris submarines, the ones before Vanguard, so Britain's nuclear deterrent.
Yeah.
So we used to hide. The whole point was not to be seen. So we'd just cruise away and move away from everything. So it was particularly boring. So I think the escape tank was probably the highlight of my submariner's career. I think, really.
I mean, that was everyone has the misconception that once you leave port, or is it a misconception? I don't know. That once you leave port and you submerge, that's you. Nobody knows where you are. I mean, the way I understand it, like once the subs go out on patrol, there's only a handful of people actually know where they are at any one time, and that's the whole point. That nobody should know where they are, because you're guarding us, and you're also looking for the baddies. And I mean, I'd imagine you see like some TV shows and stuff like that. Like there was one on BBC last year, I think, where there was, they were chasing this and they were looking at that, and both subs knew where they were, and is it like that? I know there's a lot of stuff about the submarines can't tell you, but is it like that?
No, it's not. Not on deterrent submarines. So you got the Vanguard class now, and that's going to be replaced by the Dreadnought. But I was on Polaris, the one's built for Vanguard. You keep away from everyone, and obviously it's open source anyway. There's a massive intelligence network, so you know what enemy submarines are around, and you've got British or American attack submarines that go and flush them and go and find them. So that a lot of the time they may be protecting the deterrent submarine. So we keep away from everything, absolutely everything, and we use a different techniques. You see all the American, U.S. Navy. We were very, very good, but they're very technical. Their guys, our skippers are very dedicated. Tactics, and we just go very slowly. And I think the only way, a good analogy is, if you're in the house and you've got the air conditioning on, if you've got air conditioning or something, you don't notice it until it's switched off.
Yeah.
Or if you've got, you can hear, I don't know, there's a car outside, it's running. You don't notice it until the engine switches off. And that's a very simple formula of how Britain does it. You don't change your noise. Where if you put your foot down or if you slow down, that background noise becomes apparent then, because something's changed. There's a different aspect of change. Where a lot of our tactics back in the day, I left submarines in '93, and it's open source. Any Tom Clancy novel will tell you. It's the change of noise aspect is what gives you away. So if you've got a consistent noise and you endeavour to keep away from absolutely everything, there's a very, very, very strong chance you're not going to be detected.
So in reality, then, it's boring as fuck.
That
sounds a bit harsh, but yeah.
They call them bombers. The Americans call them boomers. We'll call them bombers. It's like tanks. They call them tankers. We call them tankies. We're British, so we were first. So we were on bombers. Yeah, it was really boring. Every now and then you get something would happen. It'd be absolute manic, but you straight away. It's that cliche line that we all say: the training kicks in.
Yeah.
But anything of interest on patrol, you would you'd turn and run, or you turn and crawl away. Yeah. However, when you're doing workup for patrol, so you're not on a boat's out on patrol already, and you're doing your training ready, for your PDT, if you like, you go force on force. And I always remember it was the latest Trafalgar class. I think it was Talent. And we were fighting against Talent, and it was like, you imagine in the army, you got paras versus whatever, it's all of this one-upmanship and stuff like that. So we were against the paras because they all thought they were really, really good. Nothing wrong with paras, obviously. They're just an example there. And we beat them. It was a brand new boat, new crew, but we got a firing solution first. So we'd be chasing around and doing our bits and bobs, manoeuvring and just going really, really slowly, knowing that an enthusiastic young skipper in a brand new submarine is going to make more noise. It's like a boy racer in his fast car. So, yeah. So that was one occasion. I think it was Talent. I think that's probably been decommissioned now. I'm not sure. But yeah,
it shows you how old we're getting, doesn't it?
Yeah. Generally, it's really, really boring. But there was a kudos and a kudos of being a submariner. I was on what? Even then, 93, 91, 92, 93, I was on like £9 extra a day, which was a lot of money. But yeah, I'm a submariner, but I'm really, really bored.
I mean,
and on deterrent boats, we only went to Scotland. We went to Faslane, that was it.
I mean, it's like, I'd heard someone on another podcast say about the shift pattern, and it's like 6 on, 6 off, 7 days a week. Hot bedding, and that must do you nothing. I mean, on average, how long are you underwater for? Usually.
Well, it was secret, but I know it's been absolutely smashed. My longest time was 116 days underwater, which at the time was a record. Then I think Resolution beat that, and now the latest, the Vanguard and stuff, they're doing almost double that, I believe.
That's crazy. I mean, that's like with no outside contact or anything. No.
Well, I put on loads of weight. My father didn't. When I came back off my first patrol, my father didn't recognise me. I put on loads of weight, pasty white skin. I'm not blessed in the Brad Pitt department anyway, and I just looked a right mess. And you just get and half your brain switches off. You imagine you're only ever focused to looking at no more than 3 or 4 meters in front of you for months. So it does take a while. Yeah. As soon as you surface and you're because I was operations branch, I was one of the sailors, if you like, not a mechanic or anything like that. I'd be up in the fin. It's conning tower, but it's the fin. I'll be lookout. You get sunburnt straight away and stuff like that.
And you stood there going, "Oh, people! Oh, yeah, really?"
Yeah. And you go ashore. Then you're alongside for a couple of days before you can get leave, and you go ashore. You're absolute hand grenade.
Yeah.
Absolute hand grenade.
As it's been proven on a few occasions. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what made you leave the Navy then?
I'd done 6 years. 6 years. I was posted to Plymouth, or drafted as it was in the Royal Navy, to do an engineer's job. And I wasn't an engineer, so it was crew it's called the nuclear repair barge. It was a barge that would go alongside submarines that were in refit. And basically, all I did was chip the paint on this barge and check the ropes and stuff.
Oh.
So, and I was posted to that. I was getting divorced, and I thought I've had enough of this. And I was trying to get a draft to Plymouth on one of the T-boats, a Trafalgar class, and nothing was coming. And they're going to send me back up to Scotland onto the new Vanguard class submarines. So I thought that's it. So I got divorced and got out and checked up in Plymouth and Salcombe for about 18 months, 2 years.
I mean, just going back to that about you were saying you went through a divorce. I mean, marriage in the army is not great. I imagine there's a lot. Marriage in the Navy is a lot tougher because she's away a lot longer, and especially like say on subs, no communication or anything like that. I mean, as I touched on before we started this, I lived in Gosport for a while.
Yeah.
And the flats I lived in Rowney, Frobisher Close, I think if I remember rightly. And we were the only army family in our block of flats. There was only there was six flats, like three on one side of the stairwell, 3 on the other. And we were in the top floor. We were the only army ones in that block. There was one Navy family below us, and the other 4 flats were temporary accommodation for when people like on shore leave could bring. I mean, I couldn't get my head round it really with being in the army at the time. That all of a sudden there'd be someone in the flat, and you're going, "Oh, someone's moved in." Knock on a door, and it turns out they're just there temporary, and it's his girlfriend. And I'm like, "What do you mean it's your girlfriend?" Yeah, no, we're allowed to rent them for 3 or 4 months, and because we're on shore leave, we were allowed to check up with your girlfriend, and I couldn't get away with that. I was like, "That's not right. No. You tried that in the army? Excuse me, I can have a quarter for 6 months." Like, fuck off. It was like it was a bit crazy, but even talking to a couple of guys down in Gosport, and they said the divorce rate in the Navy has got to be one of the highest. And I can imagine it, but it is because of the amount of time that people spend away. I mean, obviously, not everyone in the Navy's away all the time. Yeah. There's shore jobs and stuff like that. But you can imagine it takes a hell of a toll on relationships
I think absolutely spot on there. There's loads of divorces, loads. I think in my situation, I got married at 18.
Yeah.
So I hadn't done the going home nightclubbing with my mates. So I had a mortgage. I had a Volvo 360, if you remember one of them.
Yeah.
And my highlight was we had a 3-piece Chesterfield suite. And I thought, hang on, I'm 18 years old. So let's just say I got divorced and I was not innocent.
Yeah.
And the knock-on effect, I was DV cleared and stuff like that. And I was in Scotland doing single lad stuff, come on lads, let's go and buy a motorbike. So we'd go down and buy motorbikes on finance. That was a bad idea. Then we went to Toys R Us and we bought the most ridiculous scale electrics and stuff. I was acting like an 18-year-old, but I also had a mortgage, a wife, and a Volvo car at home. So, we got divorced.
Yeah, I mean, shit happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I reflect on that, but I sort of have grown up as well, rather rapidly. So yeah, you're spot on. It was. I think we got familygrams. So we get one familygram a week when we're at sea. So it was a one-way message, and it's just news, and that was it. And I get on with that. It's just really boring. But if you're expecting your familygram every Thursday and it doesn't arrive Thursday or Friday or Saturday, people will go in absolutely mental.
Yeah. I mean, I've touched
Absolutely
on this on previous podcasts with people. Being away, I mean, long before like the days of mobile phones and emails and electronic blueies and stuff like that, mail, out in the first Gulf War, out in Northern Ireland. So my first two in Northern Ireland, and then the Gulf, and then Bosnia. And when mail came around, if I never got a letter, it really fucking saps your morale. It really, really does. And people don't appreciate just that. Even if it's just like a bluey with a couple of words in it, it makes you feel so much better. It's
definitely.
It's soul destroying not getting a letter, and then sometimes you get letters you don't want, and that's another way. And I think the army or the military in as a whole are really good at trying to get your mail to you, for want of a better word. I mean, your postal service, the Royal Engineers, stuff like that. But it's such an important thing.
Absolutely.
Like in Optelic, when the war started and they stopped the mail, we were all like, fucking right. I mean, you were kind of concentrating on other things at the time, and then all of a sudden, I remember the first mail drop after like the ceasefire, if you want to call it that. And everyone's just the gun position was just like it was like fucking Christmas Day. People were getting parcels and shit. Like, it was awesome. Just getting just a letter and it being happy enough. No, right. I just wanted to touch on that really. How important the mail is.
You were third, so I remember. We'll come on to that. We were meant to be wrecking. You guys drove past us in your AS90s, and I had a few mates in third, but you probably had it as well. Is you'd get some of the young lads.
You fuckers drove through our gun position without permission. Our BK went mental.
I think that would have been A squadron. But the lads as well were doing the pen pals, and they were getting sacks and sacks and sacks of pen pals. So we were getting loads and loads of support, and all the younger lads were getting all of these. Oh no, and I was reply and stuff. So
that's dodgy. Yeah. That's how I met my wife. I wrote to the Daily. We were in Northern Ireland. I wrote to the Sun, and the Sun at the time this was like 1987, 88, 87, 88. I'm getting old. The Sun would give you so many letters back when you wrote to them, and at the time the Daily Star had just started. So I went, I want to write the Daily Star. So I wrote the Daily Star and thought nothing of it until I was dragged out of a tower in Crumlin Road by my brick commander and said, "You're in shit." I said, "Right." I said, "Look at this." And there's my fucking name, rank, and number and everything in the paper, printed up and that. And I was like, shit. So they said, "Sorry, we'll try and keep it quiet. No one will notice." All right. And we got back to the maze after doing a stint at Crumlin Road, and there was 2 full sacks of mail for me. And I was selling the letters like £1 a shot. There was some dodgy letters in that lot. Yeah, but that's how I met the missus in the end. Don't fucking Right. Anyway, let's move on a bit then. So you've decided to leave the Navy, and you said you moved to Plymouth, was it?
I stayed in Plymouth. So I
Yeah.
worked. I met a local girl. I started to work. If you remember the restaurant chain Beefeater, so I worked as a bar manager there, and also I managed to bluff or blag being a chef as well. So I was. He's easy Beefeater. So
I
I
was
was
going to
cooking
say
away.
Beefeater.
He's easy. I was working there for a bit, but I managed to get a job because I'd done loads of sailing in the cadets,
Yeah.
and there was a sailing school in Salcombe. Like Salcombe's gone super posh and mega expensive now, but I was there. What was this? 94, something like that. And they had a residential sailing school, and I thought, yeah, I can go and teach. They said, we haven't got any sailing jobs at the moment, but we need a chef. So I managed to start off there for 2 or 3 months. It was an old converted Mersey ferry with all the pontoons next door to it. So I was chefing on there, live on board, and I was on like 60 quid a week. And I loved it. I was, all cooking all the food and stuff. I could use all the boats that I wanted. Then they needed 2 instructors. Most of the instructors were students, so they had to go back or whatever. And I managed to, can I do it? And I got my instructor ticket. So I spent a summer there as a sailing instructor. It was a drop in pay, but it was wonderful. But whilst I was in Salcombe, he was an old London gangster, proper London gangster. We're talking crazy era.
Yeah.
That decided to, I'm not going to say run away. He wanted a peaceful life, so he moved to Salcombe, and he was an old boxer. And I was playing rugby at Salcombe Rugby Club, and he started boxing training. So I used to box and whatever, box with him, and ended up going to Plymouth. So I was in Plymouth, had a go with it as a pro manager, and I signed up professional. So I decided to go as a professional boxer. So I was living in Salcombe as a sailing instructor / chef, started the boxing, and then I joined the retained fire service, on a pager. So I sacked off the sailing bit because the winter, is non-existent, and I was living in Salcombe as a not very good professional boxer. More about that in a minute. And I was working doors. So I was a doorman in Brixham, Torquay, a little bit in Plymouth, sort of bouncing then, playing rugby and a retained fireman. So I got by and I enjoyed it, but I was a bit of a knob because I was, I'm a professional boxer.
Yeah.
I was quite fit and strong, and I was doing the fire brigade stuff. And yeah, hang on, I can't live like this because I wasn't a bad person or getting, I'm not saying I'm some thug or whatever, but I didn't like how I was turning out. I was turning into be a bit of a dickhead, getting into scraps.
It could have gone down the wrong route.
Yeah.
There as well, yeah.
And there was a rerun of Soldiers. I was living in digs or, a shared house. There was a landlady, 3 rooms. And I remember watching the sort of communal living room. Soldier was on. Oh, I could do that. So I went to the careers office in Plymouth. I think it was light infantry recruiting guy. I always remember because he got blown up on a bus with the light infantry in Northern Ireland in the mid 80s. I think unfortunately 8 lads were killed or whatever. And he was chatting away, and I was, will I get in? And my last professional fight was in Plymouth, and I give the recruiting team tickets because you're a boxer. Oh, yeah, whatever. Of course you're a boxer. So I give them tickets for the night. So they turned up to watch me. I lost my last bout, and I realised, it's great having a good chin, and I was never stopped on the floor. I was always on the bottom of the ring. I was always stood up, but I learned the hard way boxing, and perforated eardrums, dislocated thumb, bust nose, boxed some good lads. That one of them, a guy Dominic Negus, you go on Danny Dyer's Hardest Men, and you got Dominic Negus. That was my pro debut on Sky TV. He's a hard bloke, and we're mates now, and he's doing the bare knuckle and stuff. What are you doing, Dominic? You're 50 odd. So I thought, that's it. I'm going to join the army. So initially, I was going to sort of go with the Welsh Guards. They were trying to sway me to the Irish Guards for some reason, and I thought Welsh Guards, and I lost my last bout. I can't live here, so I went home to Swansea. I went to stay in Swansea and transferred my army application to the Swansea Careers Office.
Yeah.
And I decided I'm not going in the infantry. And they taught me out of it. They said, look, you've done electronic warfare, you've done submarines, you're a little bit older. I was 23, 24 then. What about something else? So I went to Queen's Dragoon Guards, World Cavalry, which at the time were a main battle tank regiment on Challenger 1. So, I went for that.
So out of one big massive tin can into another one then?
Yeah. Always remember it. I loved it. Training was great. We had a really good time. I thought Army training, I genuinely thought the Navy training was harder.
In what way?
Kit-wise, room inspections. But whether it's because I was only 16 joining up and going through it all and there's grown men. There was a guy who was 27 in my intake because you could join it up to 33. There's a Scottish guy who's 27. I thought, my God, this guy's nearly bald. He's an old man. But I was all over the kit because I was in the cadets. So the physical stuff, the fitness. Also, when I joined the Army, I just finished as a pro, so I was pretty fit anyway. And I probably got less fit whilst I was going through basic training because I joined really fit because I was boxing as a professional, be it not a very good one. The Army training, my fitness, and I was in the Royal Armour Corps anyway, so it wasn't the same fitness standards, no matter what they say, as the infantry. But I found the Navy training was a lot harder on kit, room inspections, kit getting thrown out the windows, all that stuff, than the Army.
So there's a lot more bullshit in the Navy than the Army.
Yeah, I got why they did it because you had to be clear. You could only have so much kit on the ship.
Your admin's got to be top notch.
Your admin's got to be, you got to keep clean and stuff. I just remember whether I had an easier time because I'd basically left as a acting full screw, if you like, as a leading seaman. I left the Navy as an acting leading seaman, so almost a full screw. So my section corporal was probably a year older than me.
Yeah.
So, training was great fun. I loved the Army training. It's great. And when I went to Bovington on tanks, that was hilarious. I thought, we're getting paid for this. This is great fun. Great, driving a tank. It was a Challenger training tank. So there's no turret on it. It's just like a canopy thing. And that was great fun. So, I did a Challenger 1 main battle tank driver in Bovington before joining my regiment in Germany.
So that would, I'm kind of jealous. This is going to sound so like a nerdy thing, right? I got into a game years ago called War Thunder. And you probably know the game. And it I don't know, I was never interested in armoured vehicles while I was in the Army. I wasn't interested in anything in a fucking army while I was in the Army. But I think, after years of being out, you kind of miss stuff and you latch onto things, you know what I mean? And this game, like, I wouldn't say it took over my life, but I play it every day. And I just found myself having a massive interest in armoured vehicles all of a sudden come from nowhere. So you saying that there, bombing about in a chalet around Bovington, I'd fucking love that. I'd love it. I mean, I used to drive the 4.3 as a warrior driver.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, but it's not the same, is it? It's not the same as a tank.
It's so easy as well. It's so a Challenger, to drive a Challenger safely.
Yeah.
Challenger 1, Challenger 2 is very, very similar driving anyway. I'm just trying to remember. Minimal, few different switches, same controls, same engine. It's very, very easy to drive safely. To drive it well, that's where obviously the experience comes. How you cross over berms and stuff like that is, that comes with experience. But ironically, when I was driving the first time I drove closed down, bearing in mind I'd spent 6 years in the Royal Navy, I was seasick. I felt really, really ill because it's like a dentist chair, isn't it? You're laid back and you're looking through a periscope, 2 tillers, and you're chucking it around a bit and you're flooring it in reverse. You haven't got a clue where you're going. You just listen to the guy going, left stick, right stick.
Doing that in a warrior, it's quite, in a 4.3, it's all right. You're sat in a upright position. There's not many times that you're battened down in a 4.3. That's just fucking cutting you. that's just a stupid thing to do. You know what I mean? You can't see shit anyway. But when I first learned to drive a Warrior, and I was bobbing around Largill on it, and we were coming up and jockeying positions and stuff like that. I mean, it opened my eyes that there was an accident with the tankies. I don't know what regiment it was. I can't remember it all. It was over by Warminster, and we were doing a.
Yes, I vaguely remember something.
He went up a hill, got the top jockeyed, and come back down a bit too quick. Piled the brakes on, and it flipped over.
Yeah.
And when we heard about that, we were out at the same time, and came over the net and said, no duff casualty and all that. I think we were doing a battle demo for one of the combined arms courses. I can't swear why. But basically the tank had flipped, and I don't think he was battened down. He wasn't.
That's correct. Yeah. I think the officer was killed, wasn't it? Might be. I think the officer was killed instantly.
There was a corporal as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that made me think, Jesus Christ, that's a main battle tank. He must have been going at some rate of knots to pile the brakes on and flipping, for it to go over. But then, I wouldn't compare driving a Chariot to driving a Warrior, because they're very different vehicles, different weightages and stuff like that. But the first time that I ever had to do a jockeying up a hill and reverse back down at speed and then pile the brakes, I was fucking bricking it. Because, it's quite a scary thing. The more you do it, as anything else, the more you do it, the more blasé you get with it, and it's quite easy. You start around, And I found the Warrior easier to drive than a 4.3, and a 4.3 is piece of piss to drive.
Death trap.
Yeah, but I loved them. I loved 4.32s. Yeah. I absolutely loved them. Get past 25 mile an hour and you're shitting yourself. You feel as though you're doing 70, 80 mile an hour. And sometimes you get a bit of a tiller fade and you pull it and it's not turning and there's a corner coming up. You're just like, shit, here we go. They're all vehicles. But I like my time on 4.3s. I like my time on Warriors. But I don't think I'd like the. I wouldn't think I'd put about in the tank, but
I think obviously you were in third. I know third were down at was it the metal factory? So we were in Kosovo, and we used to take a tank up to Gate 3, which is right on the Kosovo-Serbia border.
I never went to Kosovo with them.
I know some of the lads at third were there, and we windy, typical, Balkans road up to the top on the sort of saddle in the road. Then it was the Millennium Tour. Yeah. So we came back down at Grickler came back down, and we had a young driver, and it was really icy. So we stopped the I was a loader at the time. So we stopped the tank, right? And I ended up driving it down the hill, and everyone else was walking, because if you hit the brakes, it's not going to, you turn, it's not going to turn, it's just going to slide. And it was literally death trap ravine. That was probably the scariest driving, but I was always quite cautious. But I wasn't in the driver's cab for too long. We did that one tour.
Is that where people start off? Because they don't on the guns. On the guns, you're out the back humping the ammo.
Yeah. You start as a driver.
Yeah.
B3 driver. You do B3 gunner, B3 signals or whatever in training. So you arrive at the regiment. You're a driver. First course, then you do gunner. So you can fire the gun and load, but you're a gunner. And then once you sort of get senior full screw level-ish, senior lance jack, full screw, you go over to be the loader, because the loader runs the wagon, basically. Anything internal. The loader, so he loads the gun, he runs a Jimpy, and also he does all the radios. Remember the 353s and stuff over your shoulder. And also does the food, the BV and all of that sort of stuff. And then the commander commands and deals with tactics and stuff like that. So, yeah.
And I got
to load it. Yeah, exactly. But that was Charlie 1. Pretty soon after that, we did Kosovo on that. We re-rolled to Recce. We went back to Recce onto CVRT. So we did the last operation of Charlie 1.
Yeah, that's a big change.
Yeah. Recce was great. The QDG were always Recce previously anyway, and I think they went to MBT in the January. Sorry, the January 92, 93, something like that. But re-rolled to recce, and it was complete changing then. Had to do the full gunner conversion course and stuff like that.
And that was on Scimitar.
Scimitar, yeah, Scimitar.
I mean, a very, very different vehicle, but so I mean, just moving a crew from a tank to a Scimitar. Are the workings almost the same? The crew works, or
well, obviously you got 3-man crew on a CBRT.
Yeah.
Scimitar, driver, gunner, commander, and it's very much obviously you've got to qualify on the gun, but it's a 30mm. It's originally a naval anti-aircraft gun back in the day, the 30mm rod and cannon, same as a Warriors gun.
Yeah.
And you'd have the GPMG, but in essence with recce, that's just a platform for your radios, really.
Yeah.
So instead of going for a fight, the last thing you want with a recce regiment and CBRT is have a fight. So you'd snuggle around, use your dead ground. So there's a lot more pressure on the driver, the command, and we would sometimes have a senior lance corporal as a vehicle commander. And, if you imagine your recce screen as a troop, left-hand edge or eastern edge is a lance corporal, sees a column of tanks. He reports that. The entire main effort reports and acts upon that one lance corporal's say so. I've just identified the enemy's vanguard of, I don't know, however many T-72s or BRDMs or whatever. So there's a lot more tactical stuff. The actual workings of the vehicle there was less emphasis on it, and he became recce.
Yeah.
So that's why in QDG, don't call me a tanky. We're not tankies. That's MBTs. We're recce. We just, you're on a tank. It's not. It's a CBRT. It's a recce vehicle that happens to have tracks. So you used to get a little bit arsey about that.
Yeah. I'm artillery, so anyone calls a gun a tank. We get after it like that. It's and when I started working where I'm working now, someone would say, "Oh, what did you used to do?" I was in the artillery. I'd show them a photo. That's what we used to work on. Oh, a tank. It's not a tank.
It's not a tank.
It's not a tank.
No.
Yes, it is. It's got a tracks and it's got a barrel. Yes, but it's not a tank. So what's the difference? Well, fucking hell. You were quite kind of stumped. It's not a tank because it can't fire on the move. And that was always my answer. I don't know, it's just civvies don't understand that. Even now, I watch YouTube videos and they'll say, "All right, I think what they call him, that strongman fella, the beast, or whatever his name is. I can't remember his name.
Oh yeah.
He's just bought an Abbott, and the titles, bought the beast buys a tank or something like that. Fucking straight out of the comments. It's not a tank. It's a gun.
Do you know what? Half the British Army don't know the difference, and he used to, and I was from a relatively small Queen's Dragoon Guards. People, who's that? You work with an infantry. I spent a lot of time working in the infantry, sort of towards the Afghan days and stuff, Herrick days.
Yeah.
And who are they? What do you do? Recce, and we handed our CBRTs in. Well, we sort of transitioned. We still had CBRTs, but there was a lot more emphasis on dismounted. So we'd have 4 Spartans per squadron, and you'd have snipers, and then you'd have forward air controllers, which became JTACs. We started sending commanders onto Junior Brecon with the infantry, and you're doing a lot more infantry skills. And your vehicle was just a mode of transport to get you into the area. And also if you needed the enhanced sighting systems and things like that for a recce screen. But there's a lot more dismounted stuff, which was fine. But we had some dyed-in-the-wool tankies, MBT guys who I didn't sign up for this.
Which is fair. It is fair.
Yeah.
No.
So a lot of them transferred over, but we also got a lot of guys joining us from various other units because they, young fit lads. Just because you're a tanky doesn't mean to say you're a PT biff or whatever. So there's quite a bit of transition as the army sort of developed and that recce sort of role developed, especially as sort of Telek started to kick off and Herrick and things like that. So the job's got a bit more Gucci, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never give that any thought, really. I mean, I didn't really, the only time I got anything to do with the battle group, I got moved on to the fire planning cell, which is a battle group headquarters.
Yeah.
And that opened my eyes because from being stuck in a gun position for most of my career, either being on the guns or the command post. You don't really see the outside world. You don't need to see the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen enemy tank, something fucking seriously gone wrong. You know, it's if it's got that far back to where we are. But then again, saying that, on Telek, I was doing recce for the battery recce, and we were fucking at some points we were in front of fucking everyone almost. So we were just like,
Yeah.
the fuck are we doing here? And one night we were doing a gun position, or moving forward. We'd gone across through Saffron, there was gun position there. We'd set up there, and then we were told we were moving towards the airport the next day, and we had to move that night. And we're in a 432 going up the MSR, and I've never, it was like a war movie. Just seeing all these vehicles. I've never seen so many vehicles in my life, and we're zipping in and out with them in a 432. And we're going, pulling up next to Amtraks and stuff like that. Fucking hell. The size of that. And they're looking down at us going, what the hell's that? That's from the Second World War. And just, it was crazy. It was just absolutely mental. But at one point, we had to stop because there was a tank battle going on in front of us. Boss is like, right, get the BV on. And we're all sat on top watching it. What the fucking hell's going on here? It was crazy. But no, it was good though. But I mean, moving from there to the FPC, the Fire Planning Cell, up in Battle Group Headquarters, that opened my eyes a hell of a lot to what the other arms were doing and stuff like that. And how it all gets married in, information, intelligence, and just the planning of it all. It astounded me. I mean, I didn't do that till quite late on in my career as well. So I missed out. I wish I'd done that earlier. And it was just to see how other arms work. Because as you probably know yourself, it's quite an insular thing that you're stuck in your regiment and you don't, as a young Tom or whatever, you don't need to know what happens over there or with that regiment or with that unit or that corps. But I think really people you should be given a bigger picture of how things work, if you know what I mean. It'd probably make people a better soldier, especially with armoured units, because everything moves that quick. It's to be honest, it's quite fucking interesting as well. So you got the unit, changed to recce. So I mean, how did you get Trek in your unit? Because they knew you were Navy beforehand. Was there much in there?
I joined the regiment the day Lady Diana died.
Right.
And so Trooper Thomas, going to a Welsh regiment, and we all had the last three of our service number. So I was 525. Thomas 525. So I arrived. Oh yeah, we've been expecting you. Yada yada. Right, RSM wants to see you in the morning. So went out that night with a couple of lads that I knew from training. Discovered Stena Lager. Obviously, I heard about Diana. I was straight in with the RSM. He said, "Right, you're the rugby player." I said, "Yeah." Okay, well, you pack your kit. We're going on a rugby tour. I said, "Okay." He goes, "You're a bit big for an outside half." And he said, "No, I'm a prop." Really? I said, I had you down as an outside half. I said, "No, I'm a prop." He said, "Okay, we'll pack your kit." So I went away, packed my kit. Oh, I'm going on a rugby tour, straight back home to Wales. Turns out there's another Trooper Thomas who's a couple of weeks behind me, joined the regiment at the same time, who was the outside half. So it was never me. Anyway, so there's two Trooper Thomases on it, and he was the outside half. So we went back to Cardiff, mainly barracks in Cardiff on a rugby tour. So that was my first time at the regiment. So I knew a lot of, the regiment signals warrant officer. I knew the RSM and stuff like that straight away. So I was, I'm enjoying this. And it was all social and, don't call me RSM. We're out in wherever in Cardiff. It's George, stuff like that. So I thought, wow, this is chill. This is really good. A few games of rugby, settled in, no worries, got back to the regiment. And then it was, met my troop sergeant who was, oh, you're the boxer. You think you're hard. No, sergeant, whatever. I didn't have a hard time. It was a cavalry regiment, very friendly regiment, very chilled out. And we started to I think I did a Poland exercise, went to Ulan Eagle doing admin, putting up 18 by 24 tents and stuff like that, staggering on for a month. And then we went into NIBAT, Northern Ireland training. So I straight in and got on with it. It was a very friendly regiment, no issues, didn't get a hard time really. And just started getting ready for an op tour, dismounted in Northern Ireland. So
Yeah.
that transition, I really enjoyed it. It was a good laugh. It was beer. I started smoking. Who started smoking at 20? I was 24 then. We started smoking beer because it was cheap. I started smoking because it was like one Deutschmark when I was there. It was Deutschmarks, one Deutschmark 90 for a pack of Lamberts. So yeah, I had a good time and did Northern Ireland and got a medal, and we were all thrilled because not many people had medals.
Yeah.
You know, back then.
I mean, there was not a lot happening then, was there?
It wasn't. And it was a constant churn of two regiments, 9th, 12th Lancers and the Light Dragoons, because we were tanks at that time, weren't really doing Bosnia, or they'd done it before I joined. So there wasn't much going on. Re-rolled to Recce. I then got full screw and went on my crew commanders course. Whilst I was on crew commanders, we got the email because the regiment was in Iraq on the second Iraq tour. When, if you remember, Camp Dogwood with a Black Watch up north, Fallujah, and I was joining B Squadron as a vehicle commander, and I flew straight from crew commanders, straight home, and 24 hours later, I was in the desert in Camp Dogwood commanding the CVRT, which was fun and games for 6 weeks. That was
like
hard graft.
Don't collect £200. Go. Yeah. Fucking hell. You know, and that happens quite a lot. I'm lucky that I only experienced something like that in my whole career once, and we were given at least a week's notice that something might happen. We came back from an exercise in Jamaica, and on the Thursday night, got into camp. Friday morning, collected weapons back from the armory to clean them. Walking back to put my weapon in the armory. Battery commander pulls up and says, "Where are you going with that?" I says, "Put it in the armory." He says, "Go and put it in the car drum. You have for Bosnia on Monday morning." I was like, "Fucking hell! I just got back from Jamaica." You know, and it didn't happen that often, but it happened, and you just got to deal with it. You just got to get on with it.
Absolutely,
not great for family life, but bless her, she understood. But it happens, But I've known guys, I've spoken to guys, especially in the 70s, who were literally coming back from emergency tours of Ireland, getting off the plane, went into walk, into departures, and then being told we can turn around and get on that other one, going back. They were literally getting off a plane and getting on another one and going back to Ireland because they were needed back there. I mean, they were only doing the emergency tours then for like 3 months. Some of them were short. They were just going into backfill or to do certain ops and stuff like that. But literally, imagine fucking morale there. That'd be terrible. You think you're going home. No, turn around, you're fucking off again. That'd be terrible. So what was Iraq like for you?
So I did the invasion. So we were part of Free Commander Brigade. It was funny because they'd never worked with us. I got a lot of happy memories of Free Commander Brigade and the Royal Marines and stuff like that. But they were like, "Who are you?" Because they'd never had armoured really with them. We were armoured recce, and they didn't really know what to do with us. So we ended up on a beach, and they put us on a hovercraft, and half of the squadron went out to a US Navy ship, the USS Rushmore. And we spent 2 days on that ship waiting for the invasion because we were going to assault the beach basically via this hovercraft. So we were kicking around this big ship, getting our DOS bags washed twice a day because we could, showering. The other half of the squadron were on the beach getting scudded and scud alarms and putting NBC kit on and stuff like that. So we did the invasion. And that was, I just remember hundreds of Iraqis smiling, throwing flowers, and they were throwing boxes of Marlboro Lights, 200 Marlboro Lights at us. Then we stopped at VCP, or we stopped watching. I always remember it was a zoo, or the remains of a zoo. There's no animals in there, and I had to shoot the lights the streetlights out because there was still, was it
The
Fedayeen in
Fedayeen,
the bath,
yeah.
Fedayeen in the bath party. And I remember some guy running out all dressed in black, and the crowd went and beat the living, killed him.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, this is it. But the actual invasion, although there was lots of lads that had major contacts, and my squadron had been really, really busy. I was SHQ at the time, so I was doing the signals and stuff like that. But that initial telic, at the time, I thought was quite tasty, but it was surpassed as I went on.
Yeah.
So I went back and did Dogwood as a vehicle commander. The battle group had lost 4 or 5 guys with IEDs. We'd had a few IEDs. My troop had an IED that was meant to be my vehicle because it was with us, the troop corporal leads the troop. But we had a staff sergeant who was acting in that position, and he just cracked on and whatever and hit an IED. So I remember watching that. So that should have been me or my vehicle. Nobody was hurt. I think actually the driver sprained his ankle jumping off the front decks. That was about it. But that was quite a tasty tour. And, it was when, if you remember, Ken Bigley was the first civilian to be, yeah. So that was around there. And you could see the hatred because all of the Iraqis around there despised us because they were more the Sunnis and they were pro-Saddam and hated us and stuff like that. So that was quite tasty. And then we went back then on, I think it was Telic 8. We lost 2 of our guys. We lost an officer and his driver, a Lansjack, Faz and Tom Milden, on that deployment. If you remember EFPs, the explosive fired projectile and stuff, and this is it, so we lost a couple of guys on that tour. I think they were in a snatch, I can't remember. But it was very much 5 and 20s, checking for IDs, no major contacts. We had a few. We were in Al Mathana right out in the west, and they got tasty a few times. But by my last tour, I was doing a forward air controller piece, so I was a bit of a specialist. So I was, speaking to aircraft and ISR and bits and bobs all the time. So and Afghan was kicking off, so we were getting all the Afghan war stories, and we were doing telex. So yeah, Telic 8 was so I did the 3 Iraqs. They were all very different, but it got very serious on the last one because you weren't fighting you didn't know what you were fighting. It was just an ID, I
mean, it's like I've said on previous podcasts and to many people since then. It was weird, We moved into Basra, and everyone loved you. Everyone was like you're saying, throwing flowers, throwing chocolates and stuff like that. They couldn't fucking do enough for you. And then one morning it seemed to change. It's just like, and it wasn't like going in, like say if you called the invasion Telic 1, and Telic 2 was quite naughty for a lot of people as well. It started to change before we left there. And we left, we didn't do 6 months. The war fighting guys, you're supposed to get them out. You're not supposed to leave them doing peacekeeping, if you want to call that, because your mindset's not set for that. But we noticed a change there already. Things weren't as they were. We weren't all of a sudden we weren't the conquering heroes anymore. And it's and how you view that conflict in Iraq, whether it was an illegal war, probably was. Blair and Bush have got a lot to answer for. But that wasn't our decision. We were there for the job. We went out and done it. I've had in conversations I've had before, we've almost likened it to our Vietnam, almost.
Yeah.
The consensus of opinion towards the end of it by the general public was that we shouldn't be there, and I think the consensus of the people who were fucking there were saying we shouldn't be there either. I think Afghanistan was a different type of, it was more just, if that's if that makes more sense. I think there was more point of being. I mean, at the end of it, there was fucking no point in any of it. But that's not our remit. That's not what we're there for. We're there for do a job.
I think with Iraq, we just literally started to cower it. They changed the name, didn't they? It was Shiba Log Base, and they called it the Cobb, and we would just sit there and get rocketed from the sheer flats. So one of my jobs is they sent a squadron of American Apaches down from Texas Air National Guard, and I'd brief them out, and we'd go out every night looking for rocket teams. And then obviously, tours. There wasn't many tours after that actually, but we just sat there and you think, what's the point? What's the point? Why?
Yeah.
Why? Because we're just getting smashed, for no
we should
reason.
have pulled out earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Should have gone out in the first place. I don't know. But it is what it is. So you done Herrick as well? Did you?
Yeah, I did three Herricks.
Wow, fucking hell.
Yeah. So I was fully into the forward air control. They changed it to JTAC then.
Yeah.
And generally you do the course. I did a 4-week course, with 2004, 2005, something like that. After I came back from my second Iraq tour, did that role in Basra on Telic 8 and continued doing that because it was the FST concept was coming out, so the artillery.
Yeah.
But prior to that, it was TAC-P, so each brigade would have a TAC-P or two. So, there's only two of us doing the job in Basra on that third Iraq tour. One of them might know, Dinger Bell from third. There's a guy, Jimmy Hilton, as well, you may know.
Jimmy.
Yeah. We're good mates.
Yeah.
More about it later if you want.
I'll tell you what, there's not many fucking stories you can say on here about Jimmy that'd be legal.
Yeah, I won't say it. We're mates. We're in touch. But
I know Jimmy very, very well. Very well.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll send him a message tonight.
Yeah.
So so we went from two of us working in TAC-Ps, and then we went to Afghan, and then it was JTAC, and we started to do the fire support team concept. So I was seconded to on my first tour was 2-9, but 2-9 had one battery from 2-6.
Yeah.
So I was seconded to 2-6 Regiment Royal Artillery, who were then the fire support element for QDG. So I was with my own battle group, my own CO, but my boss was the BC.
Yeah.
So that was really difficult because I was a sergeant then. I was an instructor, or we called it subfac at the time. So I was quite an experienced guy, working, with my own ideas. And I was like, no, what do these gunners know? And it was like a love-hate relationship with the gunners. My BC is a top bloke. I met him a few weeks ago. He's probably done a temp fate. He's probably the first black general in the British Army. Top man, absolute top man. At the time, or early on in that tour, didn't click at all. But I was working for the Royal Artillery, and it was almost us. Well, we're 2-6. I think it was 17 battery we were then. 17 battery were 2-6. And we had the FSTs, but we were part 2-9. And 2-9 really looked down on us because we're a bunch of screaming hats.
Yeah.
But even their JTACs were good blokes, and I got no issue with 2-9 whatsoever. None at all. Some really top blokes there. But I used to wind it. It was the early days. Used to wind each other up.
Yeah, so did that. The banter and everything, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we did that tour. And I always remember the Chief of Staff said, if you drop a bomb on this tour, we failed in our mission. Because it was all the hearts and minds. I think just before Betrayers came out with this stuff. And we're down in Garmsea, down in the south. And I didn't do anything for a couple of months. And then, without going into too much detail on here, the wheels fell off and I was really, really busy. Really busy. And I even managed to get GMRS off as well, which is good for a non-artillery observer. So, Herrick 9, what was that, 2008, 2009. I got really into the JTAC thing I was a sergeant then. Some quite punchy. We've all got dits, haven't we? And you get loads of them, and anyone listening will go, dits. I just happened to be there. Anyone could have done it. But there's a few scary moments where there's like 3 of us in the fob because somebody sent the QRF out and didn't realise, and there's like 3 of us, and they started to attack the fob and stuff in a place called Nawa, and that was quite hairy. But we got through it. But I then used to spend most of my time in between tours training JTACs, training forward air controllers, and also training the pilots and the aircrew. Because I know they're the fast jet master race, but they've got to learn, they have to learn ground maneuver. And I know you had the guy on before who's highly regarded fast jet mate, they call him, isn't it?
Yeah, Tim Davies.
But that's him, yeah.
Very interesting guy.
Very interesting, quite opinionated, but he's a good bloke, very highly regarded. And I spent, this sounds complete bluff, but absolutely bang on the truth. Through networking, because it's a skill you've got to have, isn't it? And anyone leaving the military, networking is great. I managed to get, me and an RAF flight lieutenant at the time, managed to get to Top Gun in the States, as in Fallon Naval Air Station. I know in the movie, the first movie, it was Miramar. We went to Top Gun because I said, well, most of our jets that support us on Herrick are from the US Navy carrier, because the closest place, because it's all fuel, isn't it, on aircraft jets?
Yeah.
The closest place to the carrier would be Helmand, because they fly over something called the Broadway, which was over Pakistan, and they'd arrive in Helmand. So we'd get Hornets. So I just said, well, why don't we train with the guys that are going to fly with us then? And that's a good idea. So I ended up doing seven Top Gun classes, and all the training in between when the US Navy were doing their training before they deploy. So I'm Sub Thomas, call sign, whatever. Because, I issued all my guys in 20 Brigade. That's your call sign. We'll change it to your operational, but the number will stay the same. So your call sign's your reputation. So we train with the pilots that would be dropping bombs for us, or not dropping bombs, train operations for the next tour. And many of those pilots, it just worked out. My 3 tours with the same 4 squadrons are from the US Navy. So I knew a lot of them and trained and met most of them in the States prior.
So you've got that rapport with them. Yeah. Fucking hell.
Yeah. I tell our guys, right, put you in 2s. You're going to be attached to this squadron. Each one of you, in pairs, you need to buy a bottle of single malt. Well, what's that? Young lads, don't know what. Just get a single malt. It's gold dust. So we go over to the States, 15 bottles of varieties of single malt, and we'll present it to the squadron CO, present it to the 2 IC of Top Gun, all of these guys. And they'd remember us. We'd constantly get phone calls. And in one morning, my guys, 4 of us, dropped more bombs than the entire Royal Air Force had in training in 2 years. We did it in 4 hours. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, and that's not big time. That was because we were there. But what happened is the US Navy were getting extra flying hours, extra fuel, extra bombs to train with coalition through some whatever, because we were the guys, and ultimately would save them a lot of pain and heartache downrange. So, and just one on the Top Gun, the 2 movies, they are the most rigid, polar opposite to that movie you could possibly think. Absolutely rigid. You're not allowed to mention the movie. If you mention the movie or any phrase of the movie, it's an instant $5 fine. They'd work 9 days a week. That's their course, and they'd do 2 weeks of close air support, and they'd be working with us. And it was a fantastic experience. Really, really good.
So nobody put up the runway on a motorbike with a leather jacket on there?
No. we could get away with referencing it. And you got in the first movie, you got Charlie, the chick. Well, I've met the real Charlie. Her name was Robin, and she's a statistician, and a completely lovely lady. She was like a farm girl, rosy cheeks, out in the sun all the time. Lovely girl. But just chatting with her name, Robin, I think her name was. But yeah, and I've got former COs of Top Gun and stuff, or sort of Facebook muckers and stuff like that, and they've gone up through the ranks. And many of the pilots or aviators that supported me in Herrick, or me and my guys or whatever, our brigade, are now COs or even surpassed, pushing on for Admiral now, when they were sort of Lieutenant Junior or Lieutenant Junior grade or Lieutenant back on Herrick. Herrick 9. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was my life. I did 15 years. I did the recce stuff, but I stayed at QDG, but I was always seconded to RAF, to Royal Artillery for tours, and be training the brigade JTACs and forward air controllers for 15 years.
The way I understand it now, I only see like snippets of it, like on Facebook and stuff like that. If of what they let you know, and you've got like the JTAC teams that are actually on camp at Albemarle, they're actually stationed with, there's RAF there,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
Dragoon guards there, and a part of the regiment. Obviously,
Yeah.
they're doing a tour with them, and the artillery's changed so much from what I recognise it as, and it was, I think, with the start of GMLRS and Herrick, and
Yeah.
the people like yourself and the people like Jimmy, I mean, Jimmy loved Afghan. He,
Oh yeah.
he never wanted to leave the place, type of thing.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I've been trying to get him on here since the day I started it.
You couldn't talk it because all of his bits would be illegal.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a few things after we finish.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, I know.
Uh,
I know. You mentioned my name. We did a tour together. We did a targeting tour, our middle tour. Obviously, we
yeah,
don't say too much about targeting, but we were like chalk and cheese. He did one thing his way, purely Jimmy, and I was completely opposite. We got on like a house on fire. But he'd
yeah.
left the artillery, and he was an RAF regiment officer there.
Yeah,
And
that blew my mind. He rocked up at Albemarle while I was there. I went outside for a
yeah,
smoke, got back in the office, and Jimmy sat there in front of my desk. I was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And he was UOTC in Newcastle. I think he pissed someone off in the regiment, and he ended up getting that posting before he left. And he was
yeah,
telling me that he was, "Oh, I'm joining the RAF," and I bumped into him about a year ago. He came up this way to see someone. We ended up having a night around this guy's house,
yeah,
discussing many things that used to happen and stuff like that. And
yeah,
it's weird how shit works out. I mean, I didn't
yeah,
know none of this about you. That's just bizarre. Like
yeah,
the 3 degrees of separation type of thing. I've followed you on TikTok and asked you to come on here, and I didn't know nothing about your military career or anything like that. And to know that we
yeah.
know the same people is
Absolutely.
a bit mind blowing. Anyway, right. So let's move on a little bit from there then.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you're coming up to the end of your time in the army then,
Yeah, I did 3 Herricks. I
which is
managed to
enough.
get. Yeah, I did. I did the last tour of Herrick. Herrick 4, Herrick 15. Did that. It was one of the close down and stuff like that. It was quite frustrating because those, as you mentioned, I'm briefly on it. All of those fobs that we were on previous Herricks were full of Taliban now, and they were getting literally closer and closer and closer. But out we came.
Yeah,
And my job at the time, we were looking after the brigade advisors, which is the omelette, looking after the Afghan army, and they didn't know we were leaving. But it was always in the plan, and so we did that. And whilst I was there, I was posted to RAF Leman, which is the JFACSU, the Joint Forward Air Control Training Standards Unit. I was there as a WO2, ended up as chief instructor. So I was there for about a year or two, just under 2 years. And I was going LE, so I was potentially going to go for the Army Air Corps, because I would have been welfare officer or MTO or something at QDG if they'd have taken me.
yeah,
But the Army Air Corps, with my sort of background with air-land integration and stuff like that, and a few other things that went in my favour, I was looking at going into the Army Air Corps as an LE, because their ops officers were all ground, non-flying officers,
yeah,
and I thought that would have been it. But I got prompted and nudged, look, apply for this job in Civvy Street with a defence company, quite a large American defence company. I thought, well, marketing manager or something like that it was. No chance. And they said, no, apply. And I applied for it, and I got the job. And it was at the time, almost double my salary, with lots of travelling. I thought, wow. So off I went, and I worked for that company for 7 or 8 years. 7 years. As the supplier of targeting equipment to JTACs and the artillery observers in the British Army, and around the globe. So, yeah, went from uniform into a suit, and I quickly embraced the global travel. I was never a small lad, I'd probably take 2 goes to pass a PFA. I was all right in the CFT, but hands up, I wasn't the fittest guy. I was a bit of a champagne Charlie,
yeah,
on the beers and stuff like that. But I always passed them. But when I was a civvy, then with this company, they give me a credit card. I had to entertain people, and I bloomed. I got up to 21, over 21 stone as a civvy, trying to sort of sell or develop target equipment to military customers, which
Yeah.
really is not the sort of
Yeah, I
image
get
the
what you're
company
saying
wanted.
there. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
saying
and
that.
I stuck with that company for 7 or 8 years. I had some good success, and it was a huge eye opener into City Street. I was very lucky, extremely lucky, by circumstance and my position. Instead of going mainstream, if I'd have worked hard where they possibly could have, been squadron sergeant major, probably not RSM, but I could have comfortably got W1 somewhere at a TO unit, RSM with a TA unit. I thought, no, I decided to go specialised with the sort of JTAC airland integration thing, because that was something I was relatively good at,
Yeah.
and I could get by with the networking skills I had. I was pretty good at networking. We got a lot of training for nothing. But Civvy Street, big eye opener, and opened my eyes to corporate industry, how the military procurement system works or doesn't work, whichever you see it, and how
If anyone's listening
businesses,
to this, I've just raised my eyebrows at that word.
yeah, it's getting better. I must admit, it's getting better. But just looking at it, and also how the defence industry works, and it's really, really, really frustrating, because our hand on my heart is, for me, I'm still very proud of being a British soldier, and even though
Yeah.
most of my mates are civvies now, I'm still attached to the British Armed Forces. So the guys have got to have the best kit possible. So I'm endlessly arguing, or was arguing with engineers and finance guys and, commercial. No, this is what we need. This is what we need. And it's the simplest of stuff. The simplest
Yeah.
of stuff. A soldier wants something that's simple, that works first time, every time. Everything else you can train around. It doesn't need to be all bells and whistles, because invariably it's not going to work. And every
So yeah.
technology, everything needs different batteries, doesn't it? And batteries are a logistical nightmare.
Yeah. It's the old adage, isn't it? Just keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid. So
Yeah. So I mean,
yeah, yeah.
you said you were lucky moving into that. I mean, did you find it hard, like transitioning from military to civilian?
I was paranoid that my vocabulary, I would become a cropper, I'd say the wrong thing, I'd be in front of HR. I never had any issues.
Yeah.
Um, I'm very proud of being British Army. Still keep in touch, but I'm not embraced in the massive veteran thing. I do
Yeah.
a bit, but it's no. That was then. I've moved on, and I got on with it, and you adapt. You'd stand your ground.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you know it's, look, we can't sell it. I am not demonstrating this kit till it's ready, because I will lose all of my credibility with our customer, the users, the soldiers. Not prepared to do that. We need to do that. And so you just stand your ground, as long as you say it politely. So I've never really had any screw ups on that front, where, the stereotypical things you hear about, or in the army, you think, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that. I've never seen it. You just adapt.
I think
Me
you've been
personally, I've
lucky.
never seen it. Yeah.
Oh, I have. And it's, to be fair, it was. I mean, I have seen it, and um, it's my own fault.
Right.
I found it really hard to adapt to being a civic, but it's been fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as it's like you say. You hear all these stories. You can't say this, you can't say that. Well, you can say this and you can say that. It's how you say it, and it's who you say
Of
it to.
course.
Not everyone's fucking woke. Not everyone's a fanny.
No.
Even some of the worst offenders of HR I've met have been fucking women. To be honest, the way the banter that they have, it's
Mm-hmm.
quite shocking. Some of it, but it's like the trouble I had was with not with the people I was working with. It was with clients
Right.
that I've had, and I've not experienced a lot of it, but I have come a cropper of it once or twice where I was in, like, squaddy mindset and talking not down to them, but talking with banter, let's say.
Yeah,
And they didn't appreciate it, or they didn't understand it, or whatever. And it's not their job to understand it or to go with it. It's us that have to change to them. It's their world. It's not ours.
of course.
Type of thing.
I I think you
You know.
mentioned it earlier on when you went to FPC and you were in
Yeah.
brigade. So I spent a lot of time in brigade
Yeah.
doing stuff. So you had to be careful because you're dealing with majors, lieutenant colonels, up to the brigadier. My middle tour, it was Patrick Sanders was the brigadier, top man by the way, absolute legend of the bloke. So you'd adapt that. So I think from that sort of skill, you become much more rounded in dealing with different departments that you're not aware of. I knew the artillery because I'd been working with them for years, but engineers, signals, all of them. You adapt that, and obviously I went to the defence industry, so they're involved with the defence industry. They're involved with developing equipment, kit, technology. So they want to know. They want to know. And they like your stories or your examples, and you always give an example of why that we need to keep it simple. Simple. So I know I'm lucky, and I have heard a few lads who've come a cropper here and there, but certainly the defence industry it's definitely changed now. Definitely gone a bit more woke, for want of a better term now. But I've been a civvy now for 9 years, so I know how to play the game, and I still lose my sort of temper or not patient or get upset. Excuse me, I've got to go for a sec when something absolutely ridiculous is coming out. But as you said, you've got to adapt yourself, and that's how we deal with people. But you're right. Some of our admin ladies are the horrendous. You sit there laughing at what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was next for you after that then? And where are you now?
So I moved. I had a very short stint with another major defence industry, and I went there on promotion, if you like. It was a head of department thing. I knew within 3 minutes of joining, because they had a big office in London. I knew within 3 to 5 minutes of joining that company, I'm not going to be comfortable here. And it was spreadsheet. I thought, hang on, my job's business development, getting out, meeting people, customers and stuff like that, users. So I spent 9 months with that company, and it was like by mutual, I'm going to jump before I'm pushed here. They wanted me to extend my probation, and I was having to travel right over to the East Coast. I live in Wiltshire, a place called Malmesbury, and I'm spending 4 nights away a week, and I absolutely hate my job. So actually that was a blessing in disguise. Left and managed to get a job relatively local with another quite a large defence company, and that's where I'm at the moment. However, unfortunately, I decided to get really, really fit. So I got up to 21.5 stone. I didn't realise I was huge. I was just used to walk around like that. I didn't realise.
I'm about that weight now, to be honest.
I was a prop forward, doing quite well as a prop forward, but I got so big. It was funny. I used to YouTube the games and film it professionally, and you'd never see me on the camera because I was never where the ball was, because I was walking from scrum to scrum. So I was all right at scrum, but so I can't do this. So just before COVID, I lost loads and loads of weight, and I lost 8 stone purely through cycling. So I'm one of those horrendous cycling nerds with Lycra and stuff.
Mammal.
Unfortunately, last year I was training. I was going to go cycling in Mallorca in the March last year. Did the Mallorca with a sort of almost semi-professional racing team, but I wasn't very fast. I thought I should be better than this. Came home and I was really ill, and I got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer last May.
Wow.
And I thought, and that was it. I almost had liver failure. I was really jaundiced, lost loads of weight, and he said stage 4. And I thought stage 4 is terminal. Oh my God. And my world just, young family and stuff. So that was May the 9th last year. And since then I've been through 2 full cycles, if you like. So it's 6 cycles per session, if you like. So 2 full sessions of chemotherapy, and
Yeah.
you're still stage 4. But all the way through that, apart from the actual physical chemo week where, you got your IV in and stuff like that, I didn't lose any. Well, I lost a bit of hair on the first go, but the second, I was training and I was still cycling and training. Mental health, be strong, got to be strong. Went through the second lot, lost all of my hair, lost a load of weight, kept training. Got to the end of that cycle. When was that? November last year. Had a scan. Sorry. And I was, oh my God, this is it. Potentially is this it? I got lymphoma, which is a blood cancer.
Yeah.
So they started saying, right, we need to get you onto stem cell therapy, but we've got to blast you with chemo. It's harsh. So we're going to blast you solidly for a week. Well, it's 5 days of constant IV, constant all the way through. Okay. Did that. Waiting to go into stem cell therapy where they, take the stem cells out, take a lot of stem cells out of your body, then blast you again, clean your body completely of cancer, and then put the stem cells back in. So there's, and that was a theory. However, you had to be in remission to go on that. So they blasted me, and then I got neutropenic sepsis, which was, my God, that was relatively recently. That was 3 months ago. And after that, they said, look, you've still got it. You've not met the criteria to go into stem cell therapy. So they give me another scan and said, right, your main cancer is brighter on the scan, but all the other satellite cancers have disappeared. So have two months off. No chemo for 2 months. Get as fit as you can. Go and live your life. If you get any symptoms at all, you call. And that's where I'm at now. So I'm going to have a PET CT scan next week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fit as 10 men. Obviously, my hair's grown back, although it's a bit thinner at the front. I was ginger, but it's got lots of grey. Got really, really fit. Feeling, I'm almost at the pre-diagnosis fitness levels. I'm feeling good. So I'm just waiting now to have that PET CT scan. And if they say, well, I'm going back to work next Tuesday as well.
Yeah.
If they say, I'm sorry, it's there, we're going to have to do this or more chemo or whatever, I'll be absolutely devastated. But I'm honest to God, 100%, all I worry about that when it happens.
Yeah.
So now I'm, I've done 50 miles today. My bike, I'll go and do some tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, it was ironic. I was a big fat slob drinking loads of Jack Daniels and Coke and pints of lager and, smoking 20 Lamberts a day. Got fit, lost 8 stone, and then get diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So I'm quietly confident that'll be good. With my cancer, I'll always have it. But what I'm fairly confident, and my consultant is, I'll go into something called watch and wait. So I'll just go for checkups every 3 to 6 months, and I might get a flare up in a few years. Worst case scenario is they put me onto a treatment called CAR T, which is they take your T cells out of your blood, send them to the Netherlands, they re-engineer your cells, then put them back into your body, and it's meant to be really, really good. But it's like, I know, it's like 700 grand to do it. So you've got to fit the criteria to do it because they're not going to waste. You're going to be pragmatic, isn't it? They're not going to waste 700 grand on something that's not going to work. So you've got to achieve that criteria. So that's my worst case scenario.
That it's something like that amazes me. I've just had a mate who we thought he had a brain tumor, right? And when he had the operation, and they took it out, and it had to be sent off to California because it's the only place that can test it. And I was like, why? Why is that? I don't understand. I don't understand why that's the only place that can be tested. I don't understand why your T cells have to go to Holland to get tested. I don't understand why it costs that much money because it fucking doesn't need to. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm naive or whatever. I don't know. But we're talking about people's lives. This shit shouldn't cost that much money. I say I might be naive. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's something that should be. I'm not saying it should be. Well, yeah, I'm saying it should be fucking free. But it shouldn't cost the earth to try and prolong
Yeah.
someone's life, save someone's life. You know what I mean?
I think it will come to UK. CAR-T will come to UK eventually. We just don't have that technology, for want of a better term, at the moment. It's only just been signed off that it's an official thing. The states have been doing it. Now, without being political, I don't do political online whatsoever, especially the state of all the crap that's going on now. But obviously the states spend a lot of money. There's big business in it, pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. So they do lots and lots and lots and lots of research because there's millions and billions of dollars going into it, which is all right, good for them. But I am really lucky with all of my treatment, all of the nurses, all the staff. Everything I've done has been absolutely bang on. And you can see that, there's a lot of people under pressure, and I'm on various cancer sort of support networks and groups, and I'm an ambassador for a cancer charity now. And you hear the horror stories of other parts of Britain, where admin errors, no chemo today because we didn't order it. Because every bag that you go in the IV is made specifically for you and mixed for you. So it's all made and knocked up a couple of days before. So that when they get admin errors like that, but where I am, they've been absolutely wonderful. Yeah, and I get it in the perfect world. You just have to go and have a party because the technology's there. But it's when you get to that criteria, we're going to spend this money on you, but only if it's going to work. Which I sort of get. I get.
Yeah, I get. I mean, I get it, but I don't agree with it, or I don't really.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
And the thing is,
you know what I mean?
It's not the NHS. This is
the
Dutch saying, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So one of the questions I've got for you.
Go for it.
I mean, I don't want to dwell on the cancer side of it.
It's fine. It's fine.
I mean, I'll kind of touch on. I'll go back. To the question I was going to ask you. But I mean, I found you in a gutter. No, I found you on TikTok, promoting, the cancer stuff and the cancer charities and showing what you do. And I mean, I've watched a lot of your, I've watched a lot of your TikToks. I'm not fanboying, don't worry. And you always seem very positive. You've always got a positive outlook on life. I don't think I've seen one clip of you being down or being depressed about it or anything like that. And I suppose, if I was in your situation, I don't know how I'd react. I don't know how I'd feel. So I mean, big kudos to you for keeping positive and carrying on with it. It's if anyone's not, if anyone's on TikTok who's listening to this, look Gareth up. What's your name on TikTok again?
Gareth Cycling Through Cancer.
Yeah, I knew it. I just wanted you to say it.
Yeah.
Look him up on TikTok. Give him a follow. And he does promote the charities and stuff like that. And it's again, I'm kind of lost for words because with everything that you're going through, and you've still got that outlet to be positive and show people that it's not the end of the world, that type of thing. I mean, why did you start that on TikTok?
I started doing it when I do my weight loss, and obviously I can't mention him, but he was a guy that was in the SBS, and he said, right, accountability, be accountable, because so I do an update, so I do a selfie. It's not because I'm a good-looking bloke, because quite clearly I'm not, but I do a selfie every time I'd go on a bike ride, and I used to do it outside a red phone box or a church, Gareth's Tour de Cotswolds or wherever, and I do that. And it helped me because when I got up in the morning, I thought, and you'd be amazed at how many friends are where's your photograph? Are you not going out today? So it's like a bit of accountability. So that really helped me. The majority of people were great. Some people saying, why are you doing this? So, well, it's my Facebook. I'm trying to lose weight. So it's accountability. I hate TikTok. Apart from the cancer bit and not all of the veterans, a lot of the veteran stuff is, but some of the veteran stuff is really, really good. And again, no fanboys yourself. That's what I like.
Yeah.
But there's like a bit of a community on TikTok of people going through cancer.
Yeah.
So I always, and my line is, don't get attacked by the duvet monster, because as soon as you start feeling sorry for yourself and you do that, and you see them on TikTok, and everyone's allowed to do what they want, but they wrap themselves in the blanket, and it's after sympathy after sympathy. The last thing I want is sympathy, because whatever happens, happens. But I know that when I'm riding my bike and getting fit and coming back with a sweat on, I've worked hard. People are either impressed, oh my God, he's got cancer, and he's still doing that. And it's mental health.
Yeah.
I think the vast majority of them, Telek and Eric, we've been through the PTSD mill, and you got to look after your head, and your body will follow. And I've done that, and it's worked, and I've seen the benefits. And I'm not going to say I've sailed through it. I've had some tough times, but I'm not going to put a video up or a TikTok or whatever up when I'm really, really rough. Sometimes I might look really, really rough and just gone through chemo, but I'm upbeat. So I'll do it. Say, this chemo's no air. So I use cocoa.
I've seen that. I've seen a couple of them ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I use cocoa butter because it makes your head shiny and make it a laugh. So you get a lot of support.
Fucking hell, I better use anti-cocoa butter. Yeah.
And sometimes it's not like check me out, because you got these ridiculous staged influencers on Instagram and TikTok, and most of it is crap. There's loads of people on TikTok who haven't got cancer, who claim to have cancer and sets up GoFundMes and stuff. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But there's a small group that, if I can help someone, and I say the hardest part, and you know this from the army days, the hardest part is getting your trainers on, getting out the front door.
Yeah.
Go out and do something, even if it's walk the dog or walk to the park bench and come back, you'll feel much better for it. And for me, it's worked, because I'm fit now and I've still got cancer. I'm really fit and I'm ready to attack. Bring it on. I'm not like this all the time. I've had many hours crying, feeling sorry for myself, thinking I used to be really important in the army. I was the man. And now look at me in my duvet. Not even, my old mates get in touch with me, and you feel sorry for yourself. Then the following day, 2 of your muckers drop you a line, how's it going, mate? Let's come and see you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that bit there, you've just said that. No comparison. But, I spent a lot of my time after the army. I kind of went, fuck it. That's one stage of my life over. I don't want anything to do with it. And then before I knew it, I was staying in the house. I wasn't going out. I wasn't even going to the pubs anymore, and it contributed to the breakup of my marriage. And it wasn't until recently that I've realised, or with the help of Op Courage and counselling, that was all part of me not accepting leaving the military. Even though it was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later. It's took me 12 years to find or to get closure from that, from leaving the military, and everything else that encompassed and affected me, and stuff. And I've had a bit of a fucking journey with that, but that bit where you said about you made a couple of your mates just send you a message now, and I was always the case, I'd see my phone ring and I wouldn't pick it up, I wouldn't answer it.
Yeah.
And I still don't know to this day why the fuck I'm doing podcasts, because I'm still deep down like that. But it's really, really helped me. And what's helped is talking. It's talking to people like you. It's talking to old mates. I've had plenty of mates on the podcast. That's how I started off doing it. The mate and my brother. And I've met so many people. I started in January and I'm on probably 56, 57 podcasts that I've recorded. And it's been brilliant. But it's that thing that it's talking. It's talking to other people. And the amount of times I've shared my story on each of the the podcasts with people, because you can't, I can't expect you to sit there and tell me everything about you and you not understand or listen to my retorts to what you're saying or my little story and everything like that. To share, it's a two-way street. But it really, really does help talking. And like you said, get out walking. Get out, get a bit of fresh air.
Yeah.
That was the other thing I wasn't doing I wasn't doing any phys. I was downgraded for years in the army. I didn't do a PFT since. Shit, I can't even remember the last time I did one. I can't remember. I definitely can't remember the last time I passed one. But I can't. Fucking hell, I've got in 1995. Wow. But things changed for me recently. In a good way. I've met someone, and she likes to go walking a lot. And I've done more walking in the last 2 months than I've done in the last 20 years, more or less. You know what I mean? And I do see the benefits of that. It really, really does help. It helps you sleep because I suffer sleep apnea. But getting out, getting some fresh air, doing a walk and all that, it does help. Physical exercise, and I do need to do more. Anyway, let's leave that one there. The other question I was going to ask you earlier was the MBE. What's that about?
Again, I'm very lucky. I was based in Germany, so we were the only brigade in Germany. I think 7th Brigade had left Germany or whatever. So we didn't get any jets very often for training. So I hands across the ocean, did all of the US stuff. So I did all the Top Gun and all of that. And I also I did a targeting tour. So it was a JTAC targeting tour. Obviously, can't say too much about that. So I had some quite successful stuff going on there. So it's just services for JTAC training and operations. Loads of guys could have got it, unfortunately. Or, I happened to be the guy that got it because the right people sent nice letters to 20 Brigade or the CO, whatever, thanking me or the guys. And I think actually one of them
that's
was
quite humbling to say that it's for anyone could have got it, but not anyone was doing what you did. So you deserve stuff like that, and it's nice to get recognition.
I think one or two guys got one. Got it afterwards. It was really nice to get, and I joke about it now because of my sort of social media and stuff, and I write, I get stickers on my bike, Gareth Thomas MBE. It's not because it's checked me out; it's because what it's like in the army. MBE, so I do it on purpose. I don't.
Yeah, because I mean, I remember one of the guys getting it for I think it was weightlifting. He got it for services to weightlifting, and if we called his name out on parade, we had to say it. Lance Bombardier such and such MBE, and he fucking hated it. He absolutely hated it. It was good that he got it, but he hated being called it. It was just, and you'd do it. You'd call his name out, got MBE, type of thing.
If you look on Civvy Street, and this is sort of tongue-in-cheek banter, but I think lots of guys leaving the military go on career transition workshops. I never did one. I didn't need to do one, fortunately for me. And they put all of their little affiliations and loads of post-nominals after the name or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know HR look at this and go, what? And it's like, why are the military all told to put all of these, chartered whatever managers and bits and bobs? I'm fortunate I got an MBE, a proper post-nominal, which sounds really arrogant to me. It's not. If you knew me in person, I'm not like that in the slightest. But
No,
but
I
have a laugh
exactly what you're saying there. I know what you're saying.
It's ridiculous, and they're told to do that, and it's almost as if, look, guys, don't do that. Do this, And I always try and help guys who are leaving into Civvy Street, and point them in the right direction, give a few briefs and bits and bobs. So,
yeah. I mean, the old transition workshops and the resettlement from the military into civilian life, it needs a complete overhaul because I don't think
it's a business in itself. They make money off you. Yeah. These guys on LinkedIn, I'll help you get a job and craft your CV and whatever. And muckers of mine who are leaving, go and speak to this guy. I think, well, no, you speak to a guy that's in industry or whatever, they'll help you out. Speak to HR departments, not these guys who are making money from you. That's their sole career, to make money from you leaving the military. So quite passionate about that one.
Right then, Gareth, I think we've come to the end of the journey then on here.
We have, mate. Yeah.
Hopefully not yours, Jesus.
I do dark humour, it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's just, as I was saying, I was thinking, fucking hell.
No, I did, honestly, God, it's hilarious. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
no, I've enjoyed it.
thanks for coming on, and I hope it's not been too tedious for you and
No, it's been great. Enjoyed it.
amateurish. You know, it
No, it's
is
great.
just a hobby. It's just a hobby I do, and I hope that anyone who's listening to this has fond memories of Gareth, especially like the lads from the artillery who will remember him.
Yeah.
With me being ex-third, there's a lot of ex-third lads, and some still serving actually do listen to it. Not that many, but hopefully more and more will start.
Absolutely.
I'll say good night to you again. Thanks for coming on. It's been
Thank
lovely
you.
speaking and listening to your story, and I've been thoroughly entertained for the last nearly 2 hours. Bloody hell!
Nearly 2 hours.
Oh
my God.
Right.
Editing.
Do you know what? When ones like this happen, I don't have to edit it. It just goes out as it is. And either I'm getting better at it, or I'm just getting luckier because the last few I've done, I've not really had to edit them. It's just put a beginning and an end.
Flows, isn't it?
It's a bit, it just flows. It's been good. Right, I'll stop the recording now.
Cheers,